Okay, everybody, I'm back. Let me just make sure that we've only got managers still on the call. Um, let's see. Marianne, I see that you're still on the call. Can you drop off, please?
Yes, I'm here.
We're all done with the employee piece, so you can drop off now.
Okay, thanks. Take care.
Yep. Thanks, you too. Okay, thank you guys. So now we're gonna just go to basically what we're gonna start with. I'm gonna come back up here and come over to company, which I don't know if you guys look the same on your end as I do, but essentially, and your dashboard will look different. This is my home screen because I run the payroll. But here I have this menu on the side, and I'm going to go back to time and attendance, which is the section we were just in, but we were in the employee side, which all of you will need to be in. But the piece that you actually need to know about to get into your section, Ruth, is this what you're seeing?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So where you need to go to actually like go to your own section there, your employee section, is you come over here and you click on this little arrow, this drop down, and you see you have a few different things here. And I don't know that you guys will have all of these menu options, but you should see employee dashboard and manager dashboard. What you're always going to default and come into your manager dashboard. But when you need to go do your own timesheet, you got to come over here to employee dashboard.
Okay.
So that's how you're going to toggle between, is you're going to just click on this little arrow and then switch between manager and employee. So does that clear that for you? Okay. So that's what everybody will need to do when they come in here, when they need to go do their own time. You just have to switch between, and that's the way to do it, that little magic arrow.
All right, thank you. I just tried it, and yep, you're right, it worked.
Okay, great. So now we are here, and we are in the, and I'm sorry, I just have to move the webinar thing out of the way here so I can see everything on my side. So basically, this is your home screen, and you know, because I'm an administrator, I see everybody, but you guys will just see whoever your employees are. So, and then like you have these different tabs across the top, and this is really going to be, and again, you might not have all of these tabs, but you should have the majority of them. So you can click through, you know, and these are the things just telling you about your different employees, you know, who's the manager, you know, things like that. And, you know, this is really just informational. There's not much that you would need to do here in the employees tab, other than like if their labor level was wrong, something like that, you know, but ultimately, you know, just let me know, and I can fix that. So, like if you want to see a specific employee's accrual, something like that, you know, how their balances work. I mean, that's kind of, this is just informational essentially. So if you ever are having a problem or somebody's questioning something, you might be able to find the information here. Otherwise, just let me know. So the important tab really is going to be the time cards tab. So you're going to click on that, and it's going to show you, you know, whoever the employee is, and I can use myself just as an example, although I think I don't remember if I left anything in my time card or not, but, and this is actually showing my last timesheet. So, advance the pay period so we can look at what I just put in and when we did the example on the last part of the webinar. And so basically this is just going to show, you know, what's in the person's timesheet. And if your person has errors, and let's say they've tried to fix them, they don't know how, they've done their approval, whatever it might be, this is where you can go in and make the modifications. Like if someone has somehow just destroyed their lunch and, you know, messed it up, and it's just, you can't fix it, whatever it might be, you know, you can, this is where you could click the red X and delete the line, and re-enter it for them, or you can click the edit pencil, and that's going to fix, it's going to break everything down so you can go in and try to adjust it. Like I know is not like you asked, people have the wrong labor levels and cost centers in their timesheets. This is a place where a manager can come in and just fix that. And you can fix it here by clicking the edit pencil, or you can actually fix it right in the timesheet. So all of these fields are editable, which is nice because it's much more user friendly than the last system was. So if the person put in the wrong clock out, or this should have been a clock in and they put it as a begin meal, or what have you, you can edit it here. You click the edit pencil. If it's one of those things where you can fix these timesheets easier than the last timesheets, but they do still kind of have compounding errors sometimes. So if there's one error with the begin lunch, and you try to fix it, sometimes it just it adds 6 more fields, and somehow you kind of have to go back and keep hammering away at it to try to make it so that it all fixes. Sometimes sometimes as before, it may just be less time to just delete the line and, start over and just re-add it in for them, or delete the day, however it works. But that, the best way to do it is to talk to the person and say, well, here's how you have to fix it, or, what we're going to do is you're going to have you go in, or I'm going to delete the day for you, and then I need you to go back in and re-enter it into your timesheet, because they can still add things to their timesheet. It's just that they can't modify things that they have already approved in their timesheet. So they can always modify if they haven't approved, but once they've approved, they can't change anything that they've approved, but they can still add. So if you were to go back and delete a day and say it's just a disaster, you got to go back in and re-enter it, they can still do that, and they just have to go through and reapprove whatever they've added to their timesheet. So that's essentially what you're going to see and how you would adjust it. And there's the little key over here. This is meaning the employee approved the time. And if you wanted to add a manager note, you can do that. You can add those here. And then once, and we'll go to the approvals next, once you've done your approval, this box will also be checked off. We had this happen quite a lot with the last time run. If you needed to add a shift, and let's say somebody said, oh, I don't know how to do it, but I had to take a day for bereavement, let's say, you would click up here in this add a shift box, and don't do add a punch, because we don't do punches, we just do work shifts. So it would either be a work shift if it's just hours that they left out of their timesheet for some reason, or add a non-work shift if the person had to take a day off unexpectedly and, it was close on time and they just didn't get the chance to put the request in, whatever it is. So you'd pick the type of time off, and then just fill in your fields accordingly. It was this date, this many hours, starting at this time, this was the appropriate labor level, and then just click save, and it'll pop into their timesheet. So this is where you would make adjustments for your own staff in their timesheets, or where you would, review the timesheet in essence as well. And then when you were ready and you felt like it was good and the person's timesheet was ready to be approved, you would come up here to this tab, Time Card Approvals. And again, you got to make sure that, and mine may look, I don't know that it looks significantly different, but it's just going to show a lot more people, because, I'm seeing everybody and not just the people that, are within my supervisor category. And you're going to make sure your time period is correct, the payroll policy. I find that even in the old system, that never actually worked. Like, it didn't matter what I put in there because it would just give me everybody anyway. So, you can try, it might filter, but for some reason that filter never worked before, and it's not working here. So, and then you just click, if you wanted for some reason to filter your employees or, anything like that. I'm actual and forecast, and I'm just looking at everything basically. So here it's giving you the list of staff, and these red stop signs means there's something wrong with the timesheet. So if you see that, obviously you can't approve somebody, and it doesn't even give you the option, like the boxes aren't there. So you know, it's going to show me anybody in my employee group who has actually input time into their timesheet. If the person hasn't input a timesheet, it's not going to show up here, which is why this is a short list right now, because people haven't done timesheet entry for this period. But in my case, let's say, you know, I'm happy with my, you know, I feel like I've been through it. It looks fine. There's no trouble. I see here this little green dot means that the employee has approved it. So when you do this, that's another important thing. If you see that your staff have not approved, please make sure that they go in and approve. Don't leave these dots red, because that's part of this process we're trying to get everybody familiarized with, is doing their timesheet approvals. And unfortunately, a lot of staff have not been doing that. So, and let me just see. Yeah, it's largely it's staff, you know, who do not have a present manager on the phone. So I'm sorry for that. But you know, just make sure that your dots are green, and if they're not, talk to your employee and say, please go in and do your timesheet approval. And then over here, this is where, you know, it would show green when you have approved it. Now, we've had a couple of issues with people, and it shows yellow if it's partially approved. This is where if for some reason, like, you've approved part of the time, but somebody made an edit after the fact, or there was, I don't know, it's kind of odd, because I'm not entirely sure how sometimes pieces get approved and not all of it, but we did have a couple of people where for some reason there was like a day that didn't get approved, or somebody had to have a time off thing inputted, and if they contact me and say, oh, I took this day, but I didn't have time to request it, and how do I get it into my timesheet or whatever, then the supervisor might have to go back in and approve that one day that's been added, because, you know, it's been a new thing since they've last been in the system. So just keep an eye on that. If you see that your dots are yellow, just know that it means you got to go back and recheck that and make sure that you've approved all the pieces of the timesheet. But if they're green, that means, you know, you've said they're good to go. So, and the little key down here sort of tells you that, what it means. But all you have to do to approve a timesheet, once you've kind of been up here in the time card, and you can do it here too, one at a time, you know, one off. It's really up to you, but and these buttons will work both ways. So if I come back over here to the time card and I've clicked some days off, and you know, left other ones, that could be why it's partially approved. But you can do it here, like I said, or you just come over here and you click the button. And as soon as you click the button, it's approved. You don't have to hit save. There's no, you know, pop-up box that says, are you sure? If you click the box, it's approved. But if you uncheck it, it's not approved. So it's pretty, you know, foolproof in terms of, you know, if for any reason you do need to go back and unapprove somebody, because, but employees can't unapprove themselves. So basically, once they're approved, it's kind of up to you to go back and you know, make adjustments or work with them to add things to their timesheet if they needed to, if you were deleting their entries. But you can unapprove it for the manager approval if you, for some reason, discover that you need to do that. So that's approving the cards, or approving the timesheets, and sort of how to review timesheets. We don't use schedules really, because that pretty much what that does, or what that feature can do, is set up a pre-existing schedule for someone. So, you know, it stands that they always clock in at 9 and they always leave at 5, and we don't really do that here. Everybody's kind of flexible enough to where we don't want to set those hard and fast. So we don't really use the schedule feature. And then time off, if you come over here, I see right now that there's, and again, there's filters, you know, requested, approved, denied. You can see what you want to see here, and the date range. Right now it's set for everything from today through, you know, February of 2018. And this, you know, is the requests that are currently in the system. You can see she's requested some time here, and she's telling you what dates and the number, and when she's starting, the number of hours, and then you just do kind of just like you did before, approve or deny. And if there's any more information request, you can click that little magnifying glass. In this case, there's really nothing more. If you want to add a note, you can do it there. If you want to look at her other time off history to see, oh boy, she's been taking, you know, for example, I don't know, she's taken, you know, 6 days off in the last 6 weeks, you know, and seems like she's taken every Friday off, whatever it is, you can do that there. And if the person has had any adjustments, you could, you know, go and look at their history and time that they've used and what their balance was and anything that's been adjusted. Looking at the person's balances, you know, ultimately these are sort of informational fields, but they're there in case for any reason you do want to look at them. And here you have, again, bear with me here as I move this so I can see, but this is going to show you, you know, the full calendar of any of your staff who have requested time off. So here you see, you know, like Ruth, in your case, this is, you know, Larry's got these times off, so is it a time when, you know, you would be okay with another one of your staff taking time off, you know, that kind of thing. So it helps you kind of overlay everybody so you're not having all of your staff out at once. And it puts the holidays and stuff in there. And this, you know, goes forward. Like I have taken a week off at the beginning of October, so that's showing up here. And again, you'll only see your own staff, but
I like the holidays there too.
yeah. So so it's just kind of a nice handy tool. And this is the time view. Sorry, I don't really know. And you can choose to show holidays or not show holidays. I don't really know what the difference is with this. Oh, the summary view just gives you less detail. The time view gives you a little bit more, showing how, you know, if it's a half day or what have you. So that's, you know, that's basically the time off section. Does anybody have questions at this point with anything we've talked about?
Amanda, just a remark that when you had input a vacation request for yourself, I received an email that you have requested a time off. So I don't know whether
I don't know. Actually, Edie, these requests were not in there from Daniela. Did you get an email?
I did. I received it. I'll tell you what it says, too, because it says something different than the way it used to say. Hang on a minute.
Okay.
It just came across. It says, no reply at central servers. New time off request from Daniela Labat.
Okay. So the answer is yes, Isma. You'll still get an email. I wasn't actually sure if you would or not because this just started working, but it sounds like yes. So
exactly the same message. I did get it for yours.
Well, what do you, oh, maybe I'm not understanding you. You did get one or you didn't get one?
I got two. One was you were requesting it, and the second one you canceled it.
Oh, okay, from the thing I did earlier. Okay, yep, so then it is working. All right, good deal. Okay, any other questions?
I think it's actually, God knows I'm saying this, I think it's actually easier once we get used to it. I mean, I had a hell of a time doing it last week, but when I watch you go through it, I think it's actually a little bit more user-friendly than the last one.
Yeah, in everything that I've seen and all the other trainings I've taken and everything, I think that this is going to be, it's just going to make everything so much clearer, and it definitely, you know, all the systems are tied under one thing. We're not trying to, you know, before it was like we had to tie all of the systems together under one login, but they didn't work very well together. Now this is all one unified platform. It's feeding all the information right within its own database. It's not, you know, going back and forth, and we don't have to upload files every time we run payroll. It's really much more user friendly, and in many ways seems more simplistic. It's just learning what it kind of looks like and where to navigate. Yeah. But I like it much better. I really am enjoying some of the features that are not so painful the way that the old system was, because the old system was really, it had its days where I really thought it would be better if I just ran payroll with a pencil and paper. So
yeah, really. The only thing I don't like about it And I don't know if there's anything you can do about it. If you can speak with them, my guess is not, or it would be in here. But exempt employees should really not have to put in that 9 to 8, 8 to 11. That really shouldn't happen, because it's, and I don't, even the legalities of it. If you're an exempt employee, you're an exempt employee. You should go back to the way it used to be. So that would be the only comment. If you can just talk to them about, why don't you have exempt employees the way the Labor Department says you should have exempt employees? You dodos, you can leave the you dodos out.
Yeah, it's a quite, like, I can ask them, and the thing that I thought was funny about the old system was that it actually did create a timesheet for you, and it clocked you in. It chose when it would clock you in and clock you out, and it always just defaulted to 9 a.m. So if you said you worked, you worked 3 hours on a project, it did create a timesheet where it said you clocked in at 9 and you clocked out at 12. And then if you worked another 2 hours on something else, it clocked you back in. It was doing it in the background. And I think this new system is just more transparent in that it's saying, you tell me. But why, I guess, is a question I can ask them. I don't know. And if it's something that they can adjust to go back and just let people put in, only just I worked X number of hours. But I think, it was actually forcing a timesheet. Yeah. It just wasn't something that you saw.
Well, it's funny because it really didn't show that. I couldn't see it. On my Paychex, I only saw the number. And then what was funny about it was when it gave me my full paycheck, it showed me that I worked 12 hours that week. Because it didn't default the collective hours, and it made it very hard for me in the manager side. I mean, I didn't really care about my own timesheet, but when I went to look at, Ruth or Lena Daniela's timesheet, it looked like they worked 12 hours, instead of 37 and a half hours. I could never quite figure it out. So there was something screwy about that old system as well.
Yeah, well, it's because it was salary, and so anybody that was on salary, you just get an automatic amount of money, and unless you put, like, people that didn't put in a timesheet who are on salary, it just didn't show. You know what I mean? Like, it just gave you your salary allocation.
No, but what I mean is it only showed the hours. It only showed the hours on the project. It didn't show the default project. So what it did was, if you put in, because we put in so many projects. So if we put in 12 hours of brass tacks that week, it showed you worked 12 hours instead of 37 and a half hours. I'm curious how this one's going to show.
Yeah, it just would feed the timesheet data. That's what it would feed in, but it just had that background setting saying this is a salaried employee, they get their X amount, but any timesheet data was just going in as like a memo, so it wasn't ever. And so this one, what I've seen when I do the payroll and I get the payroll register is that I'm actually modifying that each time, and I'm going in and saying, okay, if you put in, let's say, 15 hours, on specific projects for a pay period, I'm actually going in, and in your salary line, I'm putting 60 hours, so that in total you get 75. But the way that this system was actually working is that if I didn't go in and make those adjustments, what it would show is that you had 75 straight hours at salary, and then you also had 15, 20, 38, however many other hours were logged into the timesheet. So I've had to fix that each time, because sometimes it's coming up that you worked like 100 hours, So it's a little bit different, but I think it's at least, it's more modifiable and coming out right at the end of the day than the other one was. So, again, I like it better.
Yeah, no, I hear you for payroll parts, but it's, I'm going to have to live with it for a while, and then we can chat at another time, because what happens is I double check how many hours people spend on each project. And now I have to see how that's, so I can say, okay, breast tax 10, CMTI 15. I'm going to check it out. I find it annoying personally to write 9 to 11, because I could put in 4 projects in one day. So then I'm like writing 9 to 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 3. It's annoying for me personally, but I don't know that anybody else is going to be annoyed by it. So we'll live with it and see what happens. Okay.
Yeah, I all I can say is that it's it's the same thing the hourly people have to do. So it's kind of one of those where I just think they keep all of it unified in the exact same format. And, you know, I will ask them if there's another way or if there's another format for exempt people. But I think in talking with the guy, a lot of what I've seen is that a lot of clients that he encounters, they either are, like, the person doesn't enter a timesheet if they're salaried and exempt, or they do because they're hourly. You know what I mean? And so it's almost like,
Yeah.
I think we are in sort of a more interestingly unique bubble for them, because they don't often have people who are salaried who also input hours. So I think, you know, that's just, at least in what he's been telling me, that's kind of, you know, what I'm gaining. So I'll ask. It can't hurt. I'll see what he says.
You know, here's the other thing, though, for ISMAT as well, if you're still on. Maybe we shouldn't input those hours into Paychex if we're exempt. Maybe we should just keep track of them and use them in the time study, which would make for a whole lot easier end-of-year accounting.
I guess that's a conversation.
Just to think, yeah, just for you guys to think about, because we now put the time studies in. So, and the time studies don't always match the paycheck. So
Well, you know,
in some ways.
yes, that is very right, because you know how it came up, Edie, is that when I'm doing the analysis for the brass tacks hours, there's a big difference between what actually the time study that we get and the actual hours that are input into Paychex.
Right.
So that's
So I'm just saying, maybe we should talk about that when I come up next week, because it would not be terrible for me if the exempt employees stop putting those hours into Paychex, and we're just very careful with our time study.
Because it's creating a big difference.
Yeah, it was $2,500 that first tax one. So yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about it.
You know what? You guys think about it. I can live with it any way you think is the best way, but especially since the auditors like the time studies and then not that tied to this, if exempt employees did not have to put that clock in, clock out for each project, this timesheet would be, you know, we just all would write, you know, 9 to 5:30, and that would be the end of it.
Let's talk about it offline.
To answer your prior
question,
go ahead, sorry.
Well, then we keep track of it in our calendars. We do the brass tax tracker. The rest of the projects we keep track of and put on our time study. I kind of think it's cleaner, but again, it's not. I bow to you on this one.
Thank you. Let me talk to the auditors too, but I'm on the same page as you are, Edie.
Great.
So
yes, honey.
I will confirm, but I just went in and changed my timesheet from the last period. So, and I'm hourly. So I would think that it seems like it's feasible to change that information. The only thing is that your cost center report from Paychex, or from the payroll area, you're going to end up with we might have to, you know, run new cost center reports doing that. But I think the idea would be to try to make sure that it's correct. And that's another thing kind of for all of the managers to be aware of, is that you really have to do, like, that is something definitely to check, is these org units in the timesheet, because I had a lot of people last week was in short a disaster really with timesheets, and part of it I think was because a lot of people, what I've seen is that a lot of staff just make a lot of mistakes every pay period. It was happening in the old system. It happened again in the new system. It didn't seem so much like they didn't know how to use the system. It was more just that the same errors we see regularly were coming up. But I think there was, you know, certainly a learning curve, and that probably contributed to the situation. But what I did notice, and what I ended up fixing a lot of right down to the wire, was that a lot of people that I know were supposed to have sort of switching between cost centers were not doing that. And again, I think a lot of it applied to staff whose supervisors probably aren't really on the phone right now. So I apologize, but it is something to keep an eye out for, that that the org unit, that cost center, however, there's many different terminology and they all mean the same thing, are, you know, the labor level, the organization unit, or the cost center that says, you know, I worked 201 or 101 or whatever it is. Make sure that that's correct in your staff timesheets, because that will help ISMA, and ideally we wouldn't have to worry about changing it after the fact or after the payroll run if everybody is getting it right and making sure that they're entering that correctly before the payroll does run. So just something to keep an eye out and you know, be on the lookout for, because there was a lot of that. And otherwise, I think that's, you know, largely what I wanted to talk about. So does anybody have anything else they want to go over? Any other questions, concerns?
Actually, Amanda, I had some questions. This is David. I had some questions about my personal timesheet, and maybe, I don't know if you can look at it at the same time I'm looking at it, and maybe we can do that right after people hang up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here in the office, so we could do it together.
Okay, you're here. Okay, great. Maybe we can just take a look at it real quick.
Okay.
Because I got some things that are kind of weird.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm good.
Just the overtime, because I want to be able to. We have talked about the overtime, so that's of something to concern to me, because I think that it fluctuates so rapidly and it's been ramping up lately. For the organization as a whole. So is there any way that we can run an overtime report per person, pay period, or something like that, or for the whole month, collectively for the whole year?
Yeah, I can look and see if there's a report, but the only thing is, it's not going to show. You mean real overtime, right? Not like over 37 and a half.
Paid overtime.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll see if there's a report that will show me that, and I think it shows at the end of every payroll journal, like the number of overtime hours.
I know, but I want to run a report though, just to see that.
Yeah, I can look and see if there is a report that specifically will just give me overtime. I'll look for that.
Okay, honey, thank you.
Yep. Okay, does anybody have any other questions? Sorry, I'm in a different section. I apologize. I've wandered off here.
Oh, not yet.
Okay.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Me too. Till
Thanks,
the
Amanda.
next time. Thanks very much.
Yep,
very
thanks,
helpful.
guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, hon.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.